Hi, I'm Simon Hill and you're watching Purebred Reds Adelaide United Fan TV.
Are you after the latest and greatest football kits, boots, goalkeeper gear, teamwear, accessories or equipment? Look no further than South Australia's very own soccer specialty store, Soccer Locker. An Australian owned and operated business, the store is located at Shop 5 of 181 to 183 Grange Road, Findon. Founded in 2012, Soccer Locker was introduced into the market to fulfill all the soccer-related needs of Australians, providing a huge range of quality clothing and equipment ranging from soccer balls, team kits, goalkeeper gear, accessories and much more. As well as stocking all current football merch from your favourite overseas teams, recently arrived stock also includes stunning retro kits from some of our favourite past eras as fans of the World Game. So get shopping now at our Findon store, open from Monday to Friday and open Saturdays from 9am to 3pm. Or visit us online and take advantage of free shipping from across Australia at soccerlocker.com.au.
Well, it's a massive day ahead in English football with action at the top of the Premier League plus the League Cup final taking place at Wembley. That's where we find Daniel Garb. And Daniel, what a day it promises to be.
Yeah, it certainly does, Louise. Hello to you from the home of football. Action aplenty this afternoon over here. Both Spurs and Arsenal in that blockbuster against Manchester United had the chance to cut Leicester's lead at the top of the Premier League to just 2 points. And then the first silverware of the season in English football is up for grabs here at Wembley, with Liverpool and Manchester City going head-to-head in the League Cup final. And that means that the north of England will be descending on London. We'll get to see, Louise, again, one of the great sights in world sport. I speak of the Wembley Way Walk. Basically, the fans will arrive at the tube station at the top of this pathway. They'll make their way down. The Manchester City fans will enter on this side of the stadium. The Liverpool fans on this side. It'll be a sea of blue and red. Lots of singing and chanting, eating and drinking. A fair bit of banter between both sets of supporters as they make their way into the stadium. It'll be a wonderful festive atmosphere, Louise, with a trophy at stake as well. What a treat.
Right now, Palace is very much the priority for Popovic. But just like he did as a player, he aims to reach the very top. So there's no prizes for getting the job he covets most.
That'd be great for the country and great to see an Aussie lead the Socceroos. In our field of coaching, that's got to be an ambition. And whether you get there or not, that's another story. But obviously that's a ultimate.
G'day guys, and welcome to the Purebred Reds Adelaide United Fan TV, coming to you today with a preview of our game against Perth Glory this Wednesday night. And I have yet another awesome guest to introduce for this week. He charmed us for the best part of the last decade covering the English Premier League as a correspondent to Fox Sports, then later moved into a hosting role of the A-League with that broadcaster, and is now very much still in the football space, freelancing and the host of the fantastic podcast, the ABC Grandstand football podcast, with our very own Robert Cornthwaite, a club legend. I speak of course, the fantastic Daniel Garb. Garby, great to have you on the show, mate.
Thanks, Ellis. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I mean, look, when you team up with someone like Robert Cornthwaite, it's a pathway into Adelaide. I mean, the guy is absolute royalty, of course. So maybe that was the in to get on your show. But I'm delighted to be here. Love what South Australia has brought Australian football for a long period of time. So yeah, let's chat for as long as you want. I'm keen.
It's been a very interesting time, the last 6 months here domestically. What have you made of it all?
Yeah, I mean, it's been very interesting. There's a bit of trepidation about it all and where the game's going. Let's be honest, final year of a broadcast deal, COVID impacting a competition that has financial constraints as it is. But we've already seen the benefits in the first month of the season. The young Aussie players coming through and exciting us all, and the young Aussie coaches doing great things. I mean, for me, 11 of the 12 coaches, I include Grant Brebner as Aussie bred in a coaching sense. 11 of the 12 are Aussies, and the standard of football has been fantastic, and young Australian players are leading the way. So I think there's huge benefits for the game moving forward, to be honest. So I've really enjoyed the storylines and the way the season started. I can't remember since I've been back. I feel like Mark Bosnich saying since I've been back in the country. He always says that, Bosnich, doesn't he? But since I've been back from the UK, I haven't enjoyed watching the A-League as much as I am right now. I just think the young Aussie players coming through and the young Aussie coaches doing their thing, I'm just loving the narratives that are emerging.
Ditto that, Garby. We're going to preview the game against Perth Glory, and of course, you are a proud Western Australian. And after that, we're going to talk a little bit more about the man behind the great journalist that is Daniel Garb. So we'll get straight into it. The game against Perth is this Wednesday night at 8:50 p.m. local time. As always, you can watch live on Fox Sports and the KO Sports app. No squads at the time of filming. Historically, there's been 15 games won by the Glory in the A-League between these two sides, 20 by the Reds, and there's been 11 draws. Daniel, the last time Perth Glory played a competitive fixture was on the 3rd of December. We last played on the 3rd of January. Yet bizarrely, here we are previewing a round 4 match. Such are the extraordinary circumstances we find ourselves in this season. How much will this affect both sides' lack of match conditioning, given that it's been so long since both sides have played a game?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, look, the Glory did play the Asian Champions League, so that did give Richard Garcia some time to work with his squad, get them into high-level match competition. But, you know, to sit here a month into the competition, having not played a game, Adelaide's only played the one, that season opener. Yeah, I mean, it's been tricky for all, hasn't it? Sorry, Adelaide's played the 2, haven't they? It's been tricky for them both. The Glory, we just don't know what to expect. I think they're going to be an intriguing team. I think that the front 4 know each other well enough. You know, Economides, we'll see how he goes after his knee, but Fornaroli, Castro, and now Keogh coming back. There's enough experience and synergy there to work together as a team and get through these early stages while they're playing catch up on the rest of the competition. Defensively, yeah, anything's possible. And it could be a bit of a dog's breakfast early on as they try and find their way together in the competition. But I think we'll see Perth being a really exciting team that probably has some gaps between their best and their worst. And maybe the same for Adelaide this season. They've started so well. Love watching the Reds go about it, especially with Tomi Juric up top. But they're still a young team and they're still a raw squad. And I think we're going to see some inconsistencies as the season goes on. I've got Adelaide and Perth at the exact same level, sort of. For me, both teams that are on the verge of the 6 that can maybe jump in, maybe just drop out. That's where I feel both teams are at the moment. Of course, that could be wildly wrong and they could swing either side of that. But that's where I think both teams are. Maybe that first game will be an exciting one as a result.
Yeah, really well said, mate. As a follow-up to that, despite Perth having endured a much longer competitive layoff than us, is the fact that we've had to endure a 3-week spell on the sidelines after that superb performance against Melbourne City almost a greater hindrance to us than what Perth's overall lack of match action is to them. Surely by the time the players run out at HBF Park on Wednesday night, they'd be feeling that all the momentum gained from the opening 2 matches has been completely lost from an Adelaide point of view.
I don't know so much. I mean, I think they'd still be buzzing to get out there after that Melbourne City win. Like, they'd just be chomping at the bit to get out on a football field again, to have a win like that in front of such a big crowd, and the manner in which they did it, especially that set piece. I think when you have something like that is orchestrated so well, especially with Tomi Juric, the high-level recruit scoring, I think you're just feeling so good about life. I reckon inside that dressing room, the coaches with the players just can't wait to get out there and do it again because they executed it so well last time. Will they be able to do that again? Not necessarily, but I think, yeah, okay, there's a bit of a layoff there, but the momentum and the buzz to get out on the pitch as a unit will be pretty high. So, no, I think they'll be okay and be able to get through it as a result because they're coming off such a quality moment.
I want your read on the Glory squad, particularly as a WA compatriot. They've lost a host of key players, as have a lot of A-League clubs. They've recruited really well, though, including veteran Bundesliga defender Sebastian Langkamp and Kozuke Otta. Chris Economides is back after a long injury layoff as well and is basically a fresh signing altogether. Youngster Luke Bodnar also shone in the Asian Champions League for them. Definitely one to look out for. Can the Glory go one better than they did back in the 18-19 season under rookie coach Richard Garcia? Obviously, important to note that the current Glory squad is almost unrecognisable to what that season was in 18-19 under Popper.
Yeah, I'm not sure they can match it with the top 2 or 3. I just think there seems to be too much uncertainty around the squad. I think going forward, Chris Economides is the key. So if Economides, for me, rediscovers his best form, Perth are a very good chance to play finals. Like, I think people forget how good he was in the season when they won the Premier's Plate. Like, he was just a top-level footballer in this country. And, I mean, he went to the Asian Cup with the Socceroos and played really well. I mean, that was the level he was at. and then he does his ACL and Perth loses a really big player and limps into the finals, but never looks like doing much last season. So that's the big question mark. If he comes back and he's at his best, Perth will be a very hard team to beat. But after an ACL, you don't know how a winger comes back. They lose a bit of confidence. The pace goes a little bit. The touch goes a bit. It can take a couple months. Maybe they don't ever rediscover their best form. Hopefully that's not the case with Chris and he can get back to his best. So that's the question mark. Otherwise, going forward, as I said before, Fornaroli, Castro, Keogh, they should be okay. Defensively is just the unknown. The Bundesliga defender Stankamp you mentioned and Daryl Lockman. We just don't know what kind of combination they'll be able to provide. Jonathan Aspero is a player with talent, but there's also a big gap between his best football and his worst. We saw that when he was at the Wanderers and now he's been around the place a little bit. So there's a lot of uncertainty about their ability to defend on an individual basis with those players and then also as a unit. So that's going to be interesting, just how they manage to lock together in that sense. Just don't know. Like Richard Garcia, I think he's got a nice presence about him. He's got wonderful experience in the game. He looks assured in the role. I think along with Carl Veert and a number of other young managers who have come through in recent times, they've been given chances and they've taken them. I think Richard Garcia can do that as well. But we just don't know where they're at. The Glory are an exciting proposition in that sense. There's a huge level of unknown. But I think in terms of them being, a quality attacking group, a lot of it depends on Economides, and that's going to be the interesting one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at the very least, we can expect a far more attacking mindset from the Glory this season. There was an article released in the Murdoch media yesterday detailing how Tomi Juric is cautious of entering a dreaded comfort zone. Such has been the extent of his contentment since arriving in the city of churches. What have you made of what we can only so far label a mini resurgence so far for the 29-year-old, despite the promising early signs in his performances?
Just loved it. Love watching Tommy go about it. I think he's just an awesome player and character in Australian football. When he's at his best, he offers us something different. I think Adam Taggart and Jamie McLaren are the two incumbent number 9s at the moment. Nikita Rukavica is doing brilliant things in Israel. He's come back into the mix. Apogianu's been serviceable whenever he's been asked to play that role. But there's an opportunity there for someone else to put their hand up and say, look at me for the Socceroos. And Tommy's been there and done it before and contributed in a big way. Now he's come back to Australia to reignite his career. And the early signs are great. I mean, Robbie Cornthwaite said in our ABC podcast the other day that Carl Veert said to him, he's never seen a better finisher in his life than Tomi Juric, which caught me by surprise because I think Tommy's a good all-round player and a good finisher, but I've never taken him as a deadly Jamie McLaren, give him one chance, he buries it kind of player. So that was interesting from a former striker in Carl Veert who knows all about finishing, of course. So maybe, his shooting boots are on at the moment and he can lead the Reds to a place we didn't think they were capable of. I also like the way Tommy speaks. I think he's just really interesting in that sense. And he's a character that people warm to. He's just a really good guy who doesn't overthink what he wants to say, but he's a warm person and brings people to the game and loves his football and will love playing for Adelaide. So I just think it's great to watch him go about it every week. And if you can get on a good goal scoring run, he's someone that can be the figurehead of the club of Adelaide. I know Stephen Walk's the captain, but Tommy will be the pin-up boy if he can go on a goal scoring run. And yeah, it's going to be great to watch that story try and develop both in Adelaide's point of view, but also from the Socceroos, if he can really put himself in what is a busy year for Australia back in that national team frame. He's certainly got the capabilities.
Yeah, I think the only sad element with everything regarding Tomi Juric is the fact that if his trajectory ends up being where we all believe it can be, he's not going to be around too long. But we'll wait and see. Yeah. Your view on Adelaide United as a whole this season, how Carl Veert's recruited, coming off the fantastic end to the hub season to conclude 19-20. Can Adelaide United strive to potentially make a grand final this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as I said before, I reckon they're below that top group, the top 3 or 4, Sydney FC, Melbourne City. Even the way Wanderers and Victory have recruited, they seem to have far better caliber in terms of top-level players. So on paper, I think below those teams, Western United and Macarthur even on paper. You look at experience, I think on paper they might be just below them. But the Reds have got an intangible in them that's really exciting. The young players coming through to really add a different dynamic to that group. I mean, the back line's pretty well set now Jakobsen and Jordan Elsey. So they've been together for a little while now, which is exciting. And then the young players can just run free. And I think Carl Viet knows how to get the best out of them. And they've got that South Australian vibe now at the club. So a lot of it comes down to Tomi, as we just discussed. If he plays at his best and leads the line, the Reds are capable of joining that top group and surprising and maybe knocking, not only making finals, but taking a couple of scalps as well. If he falls short, do they have the firepower up front? I'm not too sure about that. Ben Halloran's another interesting one. Like, Ben's 28 now. It feels like yesterday he was playing at the World Cup for the Socceroos, coming off the bench against Chile, and all of a sudden he's 28 and coming off a really strong season. Can he go to another level potentially? Can he take things up a notch even? And based on his stats, that could be hard to do. But Ben Halloran does that. You've got a top-level A-League player. So that's another interesting one to watch. But I think Adelaide is an exciting team because of the young talent coming through, the Toure boys and others. And that real South Australian vibe that not only Carl, but Bruce Chatea has managed to get out of that group. I think everyone looks at Adelaide and just wants them to do well. I reckon they're almost everyone's second favourite team, but we really enjoy what you're doing. We love the vibe there at Hindmarsh, the crowds and the buzz. Everyone wants to see Adelaide progress because they seem to be going about things in the right manner off the field.
Music to all of our ears, Garby. Now, you are an analyst with Betfair, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but give us some of those expertise, mate. I want a prediction. How's this one going to
go? I'll say a draw. I think the Glory will be fired up for their first game at home. I think they'll be just desperate to get out there. They've had to sit back and watch everyone else play. So they'll have some enthusiasm about them, but they could tire. And I think Adelaide will be desperate as well to get out there again for the reasons I spoke about before. They had such a buzz from that win over City. So I reckon they might cancel each other out and there could be a draw in this game.
There you go, folks. Well, that does us for our prediction of the game. Garby, we're going to get into a bit of a biographical. So your early beginnings, your experiences growing up in WA, you played the game in your younger years. Were you a big Glory fan during that Perth Glory NSL era?
Massive Glory fan, yeah. In fact, from an Adelaide point of view, one of my best moments is watching the Glory beat Adelaide City 2-1 in a final at the Wacko, and we were down 1-0, and then Jamie Harnwell and Bobby Despotovsky scored late goals from set pieces. Let me tell you, the Wacko almost lifted off the earth. There was so much noise inside the ground that night. So that's one of my great Glory memories. We always loved taking on Adelaide City because they were a team that we respected so much and had so many great players. So there was always a buzz around Perth Oval when Adelaide City came to town. And to be honest, I think the Glory probably knocked them off their perch as the team that everyone else aspired to be like in those mid-90s to late 90s days in the NSL. So, yeah, I was a big fan then, Glory obsessed, loved the storylines, and, went overseas. So it was hard to keep track of, the day-to-day goings on, of course, but always watched them with interest. And now it's great to watch them again, although I don't live in Perth anymore. But, they're always a club that's very close to my heart.
Fantastic stuff. So let's take it all the way back to the beginning for what has been a distinguished career in the football media for you, Garby. What fans will want to know from the off is how you first fell into it all. So take us back.
Yeah, so, I mean, I was always sport obsessed and football obsessed as well. But I love my Aussie rules as well. Like, I'm a big West Coast Eagles fan. And I'm sure
I love the sound of that. I am
big
too.
Crows and big Port Adelaide fans there too. Like, just because you're a football fan doesn't mean you can't love Aussie rules too. So I was obsessed with both, and my cricket and golf and so many other sports. But yeah, I think because I played football, I had a sentimental attachment to the game, and I fell in love with Australian football. I just loved watching the stories of Aussie players overseas and the local league. And I don't know, maybe it's the sensitive side of me or my support for the underdog, but I just felt a real connection to the Aussie game and wanted to see it flourish, along with being a big Liverpool fan, of course. So, yeah, I just took a great interest in it from an early age. But, I did commerce at university and then fell into the media, basically writing some Aussie rules articles actually for a website, and just really enjoyed media stuff, and then got a job at 6PR Radio, which is the equivalent of 5AA in Perth. And they let me do some work on Glory games, sort of sideline reporting and things like that. And I just really enjoyed it, and then grew with football, moved to Melbourne, worked at SEN, got into the football department there and was working on victory games, and it just grew. And I went to the World Cup in South Africa for SEN and met a lot of people involved in Australian football. Before you know it, I'm in London working for Fox. That's the the short version of how it all came to be in a footballing sense. But yeah, just loved the media and loved covering the game and loved covering all sport. But football was a sport that I thought, everyone wanted to cover Aussie rules in Melbourne and Perth. This was an avenue to maybe get in, and I loved doing it. And it worked out really well for me. So yeah, delighted with the choices.
It is an inspiring account you have there, my friend. Let's discuss your stint at Fox Sports as the European correspondent. You were based in England for the majority of this period, and I personally recall countless occasions where you'd be previewing a match between Liverpool and Man United, for instance, out of Anfield, an absolute dream job for most of us, and particularly myself as a Liverpool supporter, and I note that you are one too. Take us back to these golden years and some of the greatest memories you have from your experiences in this gig. For me, just personally, one of the greatest pieces of journalistic work you produced, in my opinion, was that riveting interview with the EPL veteran Joey Barton.
Thanks for remembering that. Yeah, it's almost 10 years ago now. That was in my first season. Surprised you remember it, but thank you. Yeah, that was an interesting one. Joey's just a great character. So worked hard to try and get that interview, got it, and he was fantastic. I mean, as I thought he would be, he gave so many good stories. Like, I remember him saying, he used to sit with Mark Viduka and talk about marijuana legalization in the changing rooms and how much he loves the NRL and watches that all the time. So little stories like that, which most other players just wouldn't give you, but Joey's just a different character. So he was great. I mean, every single experience I had there was unbelievable. I was so fortunate. 5 Premier League seasons. In my first season, I watched Aguero win the title in the last second with that incredible goal. My last season, I watched Leicester in the Premier League, the most unfathomable sporting story imaginable, never mind just in football. And I was able to cover that for the whole second half of the season. That was awesome. Going to big games at Anfield and Old Trafford and the Emirates and the Etihad, every single time was just such a buzz. Stamford Bridge and White Hart Lane. Never once did it ever feel like day-to-day work. It was every single game was a big event, and I never for a second took it for granted because I had the best seats in the house, a kid from Perth, and every single time I was like, what am I doing here? But just worked really hard to try and give the viewers something unique from the ground and try and interview someone interesting and make the most of the situation. And I loved every single moment, and all of those big games were great. And yeah, I mean, sitting back as a Liverpool fan and watching us, win at Anfield and score 4 against Arsenal in 20 minutes and beat United and all these sorts of things. Of course, you take off your work hat during a game and you become a fan and you absolutely love it. And then the whistle goes and you get into work mode again and switch on in that sense. But going to all those grounds, watching all those big games were just brilliant. And being able to interview people I never thought I'd ever meet, fantastic. And yeah, it wasn't just the football. I did some other sports as well, but it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience that I'll cherish forever.
Have you maintained many relationships from all the networking that you would have done over there?
Yeah, I've managed to keep in touch with a fair few people. I mean, I've got my own personal podcast, Grace with Garby. Jamie Carragher was on that, as people may have seen. So yeah, I mean, I managed to meet him in my last year or two there, and we seemed to get on pretty well. So he came on, which was good. And yeah, I've still got a lot of media mates there that I speak to and get along with. So yeah, I still have connections with some of the people at clubs too, and yeah, some good friendships and good memories.
You mentioned the game against Arsenal back in that phenomenal season. Are there any other memories that stand out for one reason or another? Any particular ground that you visited that will just never leave the back of your mind?
I mean, look, all those grounds, all those games were great. I mean, I remember the Why Always Me game with Mario Balotelli. That was a moment where you're in the ground. City won 6-1 against United, which I didn't mind too much. I'm not that fond of City, but anytime United gets thumped, I quite enjoy. But that moment when you see him lift his shirt up and you're just going, what has he done here? That was so cool. Yeah, I mean, in terms of some of the other grounds, St James Park, I loved going to. That's such a unique ground. So many of the other grounds are sort of 20 minutes out of the city. St James's Park is right in the middle. And I really loved going there, watching Sunderland against Newcastle. Sunderland won at St James's Park. Paolo Di Canio managing Sunderland, going nuts on the sidelines. You knew that he wouldn't last very long there because he was just crazy. But that was a cool day to be at the football. Plenty others in that respect. I mean, I was lucky enough to go to an El Clasico in Madrid, Real Madrid, Barcelona, and sit on the sidelines there and interview John Aloisi, who scored at the Bernabeu before that game, the former Reds coach. So, A former Adelaide product, I should say. Should be a Reds coach, maybe, in some people's eyes. He went close
His
to getting
brother
the
is
job.
one now.
Sorry?
His brother is one now.
His brother's back there. But, yeah, I mean, Johnny's a proud South Australian. So sitting with him at the Bernabeu and talking about Real Madrid, Barcelona, and then sitting pitch side for a game there, watching Messi and Ronaldo go about it, like, just stupid. You sit there going, like, what is going on here? Why are we here? But just so much fun. So, yeah, so many great memories like that. So many big games, exciting games, great grounds. The buffet at Chelsea's world class. Lucky enough to enjoy that on many an occasion. So all these moments were ones I used to savour.
Brilliant stuff, Garby. So you moved back to Australia. I know it wasn't voluntary, but coming home to cover the game from these shores for the first time with Fox Sports must have been interesting given all those years you spent living in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, it pretty much was voluntary. Like, I mean, we lost the rights, so that accelerated it. But my visa was running out. I'd spent 5 years. I didn't want it to labour over there in the UK. Like, I wanted it to end on a high. I didn't want it to just go on and go on. And yeah, my visa was running out, so I was thinking about coming back. And then we lost the rights. It was like, all right, well, decision made.
Yeah.
But I was sort of looking at it anyway, so it was voluntary in a sense. And coming back was fine. I mean, yeah, there's a big change from, the bright lights of the Premier League. But as I said, I love Australian football, and I've still been lucky enough to cover massive Socceroos games, and that's always a thrill. I've managed to cover the Socceroos at Russia in 2018, the Matildas at the World Cup in France in 2019. Great experiences like that I still cherish enormously. So, yeah, coming back still been a fantastic experience.
Great stuff. So after leaving Fox Sports last year, you remain very much in the football space, writing articles for the A-League official website, hosting the great ABC Football Grandstand podcast with, as I mentioned, our great club legend, Robert Cornthwaite, and friend of the show, and working as a football analyst for Betfair. Tell us how it's all going.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it, to be honest. It's opened up quite nicely. The ABC Grandstand podcast has been a really nice offer from them, which Robbie and I are enjoying. Robbie's just a champion, as you all know. He's just a really good man and an intelligent football mind. And I think he's got an enormous amount to offer the Australian game in the years to come. So we're really having a good time working together, both loving it. Yeah, doing some stuff with Betfair, which is good. They've been very good to me, and I'm covering some games as well for News Corp. So yeah, back with the old employer in a sense, doing some match reports, which I'm quite enjoying too. So yeah, the Australian game has been good to me in that sense, and yeah, the 3 good deals. They give me a lot of spare time to go and play some golf as well. So life's enjoyable right now.
Well, Daniel Garb, a member of the small fraternity of genuinely fantastic football people that have served us in Australia's football media. It's been an absolute privilege connecting with you and covering the game against Perth and hearing a bit about your background as well. I wish you all the very best in whatever the future holds for you, and very much please continue to stay in the football space in this country.
No worries. I've got a few questions for you, Ellis. Firstly, Crows or Power?
I'm West Coast, mate.
No worries. Really?
Yeah. So my cousin, who's a bit older than me, used to look after me a lot growing up when my parents were at work, and because there was no Crows or Port, he grew up as a West Coast fan. So
right.
I've always been, very big Eagles fan. So when
wow, how do you survive as an Eagles fan in Adelaide?
Not well. I always get the one question of why, like why. Yeah. I feel like in Adelaide it's okay to support a Melbourne team for whatever reason, but because it's a Perth team and Perth is sort of similar to the Adelaide market. Yeah. I just always get that question. So, but it is what it is. It's a great club.
We've got a great record in Adelaide as well. So you must have enjoyed some of the wins there. Okay,
there's
interesting.
Been some crackers.
Yeah, great. And okay, so Adelaide, where do they finish this year? From the guys who are at the coalface of the club, what do you reckon they're capable of, honestly?
I think top 4 has to be the goal, but I think the club will be happy with a top 6 placement at the end of the season, just given that they didn't make finals last season, given the turnover of players. But I think the goal has to be to eventually get back into Asia, because that's an untapped market that surely with the Chinese ownership we now have would align beautifully.
Interesting. Nice to know. Well, go Eagles.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, echo that as much as I can. And do you get to Perth much? Obviously, now is a bit of an intricate.
Yeah, now it's impossible. But Yeah, I mean, I have been back a fair few times to cover Glory games and so on over the years, and managed to watch one game at the new Optus Stadium, which is awesome. So I enjoyed that, and I was there for the grand final Glory Sydney at Optus as well. And when Chelsea played the Glory, I was there. So I've been back a few times and love it. So yeah, I'll get to some big Eagles games again when the world returns to normal. But whenever they're in Sydney or Melbourne, when I'm there, I still watch them as much as I can. And yeah, try watch the Glory when they come to town as much as I can as well. So looking forward to the game on Wednesday night. It should be an interesting battle.
Sensational stuff, Garby. Thanks for watching, everyone, and you take care of yourself, mate.
You too, mate. Thank you.